Bear with me for just a moment here while I get my live set up on YouTube, where we will be going live in just a moment. And there we are, live on YouTube. Hey, good afternoon, good morning, good whatever it is, wherever you are. It's good to see you guys again. Had a lot of fun last night. Kyle was on Wednesdays, Wastrel Wednesdays. Always love to have Kyle on. It's great to see him. It's great to see you guys. How's everybody doing today? I hope you're doing just outstanding. I'm doing pretty good. Just had a delicious turkey sandwich. Just had to wolf that down. I was like, there's no way I'm going to sit here with my stomach growling and tying itself in knots for an hour and change. So yeah, I just fixed myself a little nosh. Delicious, delicious turkey. But anyway, hello, Adam Black. Good to see you. Good to see you on the chat. Wait for a few other people to join. YouTube said I had 4 people sitting there, then it was 3, now it's 1, now it's 0, so I don't know. I don't know if you guys are out there waiting for the show to start. I don't know if YouTube's lying to me. I just don't know. So we'll have to see. But anyway, of some relevance to us as gamers, as geeks, I'm going to pull this up here. Hang on a second. Now you guys may not know this, but Robin Williams, the late, great Robin Williams, he was one of us. Robin Williams was a gamer. He played Dungeons and Dragons. He played Warhammer 40K. There's a great story about he and Billy Crystal and their kids basically raiding a guy's hobby shop in San Francisco. He had closed for the evening, and it was just at closing time. And they showed up about 5 minutes after he had started counting down the till, and were banging on the door. He didn't know who they were initially, and so he goes over to the door and looks out the window, and there's Billy Crystal saying, "Hey, are you open?" And of course he opened up for them, and they spent thousands of dollars in his shop. They had driven up from LA or down from somewhere or over, I don't know, California. All right. It's a big, long state where everything's all fucked up. That's about all I can say. But yeah, so he opened up the shop for them, and to show their appreciation, they spent a whole lot of money on various gaming stuff. So in addition to being just an amazing talent, Robin Williams was he was a gamer, and had been since Juilliard. When he attended Juilliard, he played Dungeons and Dragons and loved it. But anyway, so there's a guy who has been in a fan film that's gotten a lot of traction, a fan film about Obi-Wan Kenobi. And he does apparently pretty good celebrity impressions. I don't know to what extent. I don't know how real this is. I don't know if this is something he did with a friend, or with friends. I don't know if somebody hired him to do this. But there is a short fan movie called Robin Screen Test, which looks like it's out of a Hollywood quality biopic about Robin Williams. I'll share the link over here, and you can go check that out later. But it is amazing. There shouldn't be a dry eye after watching this. It's awesome. I thought it was like maybe a screen test or, a clip or something, but apparently it's It's just something he did with someone as a kind of a fan sort of thing. Now, a lot of times this sort of thing doesn't go anywhere. Let me tell you, all the way back, God, what? In the early 2000s, there was a sizzle reel put out by a production company for a science fiction TV show that they wanted to create called Slingers. And it was a 1960s caper crime movie, but as a futuristic science fiction television series. I remember like the opening text was, "Welcome to the swinging 60s, 2466" or something like that. But it never went anywhere. It's been almost 2 decades since that trailer dropped. So, and it probably never will get made. But boy, wouldn't it be nice if it did. And that's kind of where I am with the Robin trailer, or Robin video. It would be lovely if it got made. So check that out if you get a chance. Hello, Damien. Well, don't go now, though. Don't go now. I have few enough of you watching the stream as it is. So check that out after today's live stream. And we'll we can talk about it in the future. But yes, Robin Williams, gamer, entertainer, father. But let's move on. Again, we had a great show last night. All of them are great shows, generally speaking. I have fun. I hope you guys have fun. They're all entertainable, entertaining, and enjoyable. A portmanteau, that's what that was. So yeah, those of you who have been patiently waiting, and I know that's a lot of you, to find out what happened in the Monday night AD&D game, today is your day. We're also going to talk some, time permitting, we're going to talk a little bit more about Greyhawk Gods. We're going to look at a couple more. And, yeah, we will proceed apace. So, Monday night, those of you who do not know, who have not been keeping up, I run a fairly large game on Monday nights. I have 12 regular steady players. It got as high as 15 recently. It got as high as 15. I invited a few friends. I shouldn't just say a couple of friends. I invited a few friends. 2 of them had to drop out. They have their wedding to plan, which is in a couple of months. And then they have they just have a lot on their plates. And then the third player, I guess, just got busy with work or something like that, and he was not able to swing back around. Mr. Grooves, good to see you, sir. How the hell are you? So, yeah, we briefly expanded out to 15, now shrunk down back to 12, but, you know, hopefully the happily married couple will be able to rejoin at some point in the future. And I'll hear from our third player. He'll reach out and jump back in. But if not, I mean, hey, you know, the core group is still there. the core group of 12. I love it, though. I love it. I love having that many players. So many people come at me and they're like, how do you even that? Ew, that doesn't sound fun at all. That's not manageable. Nobody has a chance to role play. Well, thank you for your vote of confidence on my dungeon mastering skills, but I've not gotten any complaints so far. So, I'm doing, you know what? I'm doing great. You know, it's another day in paradise. I love it. So anyhow, moving on. The Monday night game. We are currently running S4 Lost Caverns of Sojkoth, which I have talked about on this channel a lot. And finally, this last week, the party entered the Yetl Mountains in search of Igwilv's prize. And I have had so much fun preparing for that. In the past, when I've run S4, which is only a couple times in the past, I've kind of cringed a little bit at the idea. Well, so if you're familiar with S4 Lost Caverns of Sojkamp, there is a player's map which is supposed to be drawn from the fragmentary notes of history about Igwilv's kingdom and the potential whereabouts of her castle, her treasure hoard. And of course, likewise, a few fragmentary notes. And the map that the players get has a few paths drawn through the mountains to a few potential locations of the Lost Caverns. Now, I, as the DM, have a complete map, and I know where the Lost Caverns are. But the player's map, or the DM's interpretation of the player's map, has areas for me to put random encounters in. Well, yes, random encounters, but basically what I did was, and there are some fixed encounters also, I used the random encounters table that comes in S4 and pre-assigned at each location where you can potentially have an encounter. I chose which encounters from the list I wanted where. Now, I did roll the dice, but like if I got duplicates or one that I just didn't particularly like, I'd move it. But I have all of this planned out. All of the individual locations are pre-plotted. So I'm not sitting there at the table rolling and then leafing through the module looking for what exactly, I need to do for each location. I've got it all pre-planned out. And I'm also using, and I've shared this before, no, it's completely understandable, Ricky. Just, I understand you have to do what you have to do. And I completely get it. So, you do the right thing and set your work aside and listen to my live stream. And I'm sure everybody will understand. But one of the things that is a lot of fun that I'm having with this is the World of Greyhawk weather generator, random weather generator. Let me pull this up here. It is this awesome automated tool, and I'll share the link. Of course, I will. Hey, IR, good to see you, man. Mr. Imperial Ramblings himself. I'll throw this in there. So I fired up the weather forecast generator for Greyhawk. Now, the area where the Yetl Mountains on the World of Greyhawk are located is about latitude 40 north. I didn't get specific because we're talking about weather fronts here, right? So we said Fahrenheit for 24 hours, show the average temperature, sunrise, sunset, moon phases, wind, precipitation, and the month. Now, this particular month is mid-autumn, or late autumn, rather. This is Ready Reet. So I brought that up, and the terrain is mountains. And there was, I think it's in the World of Greyhawk set, but they mention that the Yetl Mountains are around 3,500 feet tall, so I put in 3,500 feet. Which, by the way, is about, at least here in our own reality, about the tree line. So the party won't be completely up out of trees, just on, bare rock and glacier. So I click cast the spell, and I get an entire month of weather. Now, this isn't the generation that I use, the one that I've got here on the screen. Let me see if I can share this. Let me see if I can add a window here. Let's see. Is that going to show up? Pardon me. Let me see if I can bring that up. No, it's not showing up. All right, I can't get that to show up. I'm not going to fart around with it too much. You can go to the website and generate your own Greyhawk weather all you want. So yeah, I generated this. You got sunset at 6:46 in the 4:45 in the afternoon, and sunrise at 6:46. And it's cold. It is cold. Severe blizzard, light snow, winds at anywhere from 5 to 30 miles an hour. And I've been using this chart and telling the party, it's like, hey, you know, this is not just a camping trip. You guys have got to figure out fuel for your fires, food, all that stuff that you may not normally consider in the average AD&D game. S4 and this weather chart are really giving me a chance to explore. So every day it's like, mark off fuel for your fires and mark off rations. Now, obviously, they're at but not above the tree line, so they can collect dead wood and light fires. And they have a cleric who can cast enough create food and water to make, I think they determined it was 36 cubic feet of food per casting. But they're working through what they have before they fall back on, let's use valuable spell slots on creating food and water. They do have the Daern's Instant Fortress, but at the end of the day, that's a metal tower. I mean, imagine blizzard conditions and your only shelter is just a metal box, no insulation. So they've had to come up with workarounds to make that usable. They've got the bard with his lyre of building to make stone buildings up there. Earthen and stone buildings. So it's been interesting watching them really tap their resources and not just take it for granted that, oh, well, we'll just throw some blankets down and put a watchfire on, you know? It's been really, really enjoyable watching them do that. Groove says, cool tool. I have a one-day tracker sheet that does 24 hours. This would be cool to make a note at sunrise, noon, sunset, and add those details as each day passes. 24 hours divided into turns and rounds. Yikes, yeah. I go with the encounter tables in the Dungeon Master's Guide to basically, so I'm not rolling like, okay, 24 hours divided 24 by 6. Check for a wandering monster every turn. It would be a shame if that metal tower got caught in a lightning storm. Yes, it would. Be a shame for the people inside. The tower might be okay. So the party entered up into the Atoll Mountains. The first day, they encountered a snow snake, which is basically a giant serpent, but it has a pelt of fine fur on it, and they were like, yay, all right. So they slew it. It was completely ineffective. Skinned it. Settled in. They actually camped for an extra day right there. I had to adjust a few things because they camped because they wanted to render the fat from the snake. They said, well, if it's in a northerly clime, it's going to have fatty meat. So let's render the fat for some extra oil. And we'll cure some of the bladders of the snake to carry the extra oil. Very resourceful players. So They did that, and I did check for an encounter. That's the kind of thing that a wandering monster might smell. But they got some of the snake meat, they rendered some oil, and they have the thing's pelt, which the ranger recognized as being valuable. Rolled that up, carried it on horseback, and continued on into the mountains after a day's sojourn. Now, they weren't using the Daern's Instant Fortress every night, because I told them there are some nights when you come to a spot where, you know, you've got a 10-yard wide area, but there's a cliff overhang, and to the right is hundreds of feet drop into a valley or gully below. So on those nights, it was tense. One of the players has got memorized the spell Leomund's Tiny Hut, which makes a nice toasty, I think it's 70-degree, 72-degree interior inside a force bubble that up to 6 people can sit in comfortably. Well, there's 12. So they can't all be nice and toasty. Some people have got to be intense. Some people have got to be intense. But the thing about Leomund's Tiny Hut is it keeps things nice and warm to 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Once it starts getting below that, it starts getting below. There were a couple of nights in this first leg of the journey when the temperature got in the sub-zero teens, which means inside the dome got into the 50s. Now, I don't know about you northern folks, but down here in Florida, that's chilly. That is mighty cold. So even inside Leomund's Tiny Hut, they were having to wrap up. The ones who were lucky enough to be in there. The next major encounter, if you've seen the map for S4, there is a road nexus in S4. On the player's map, it shows 3 roads, 3 paths through the mountains. When they arrive there, there's 4. There's one that trails off to the southwest. So they are... Okay. For reasons, I have flipped the map of S4. The party is going into it. I put the Lost Caverns in a slightly different place in the Yaddle Mountains. So the map is flipped. So if you're looking at your copy of S4 or thinking about it in your head and you're like, I know that map. I think Bill meant to the southeast. It's to the southwest on my map. But anyway, it's a 4th path. But at that juncture, they encountered a band of mountain dwarves. I almost said mountain goblins. Mountain dwarves who were sallying for war. Now, the party has 2 dwarven-related characters. They have a dwarf, and then they have a human who was raised by dwarves, who are able to communicate with the dwarves and find out exactly what was going on. It seems that the dwarven settlement, or rather a dwarven settlement, was attacked by hobgoblins, was raided by hobgoblins, and the hobgoblins had done them great hurt. So the dwarves saddled up and were on the hunt for the hobgoblins, and just happened to be waiting at that major intersection, deciding which route to take when they encountered the party. Now, the party's dwarf, Grindel, said, well, you know, we like to smash evil also. Perhaps we could team up. Jack Voton says, my first winter in LA, I scoffed at locals in jackets and gloves and at 60 degree Fahrenheit while I was in t-shirt and shorts. Next winter, I was there with my jacket and gloves too. That's what I'm talking about. Exactly. You can always spot a Florida man during a Florida winter when we have cold snaps where it actually does get down into the 40s, 30s, and 20s, because it does happen down here sometimes. Because we're the ones wearing a heavy winter coat, a hat, maybe even earmuffs, and jorts and flip-flops. That's Florida man right there. Because we know, however freezing cold it is in the morning or late evening or whatever, by midday, yeah, it's going to be hot again. Now, it may get freezing again at night, but by midday, all that heavy weather gear is coming right off. So we dress in layers. But the party spoke with the dwarves and said, hey, yeah, we're all about Smash and Evil too. Maybe we can help you out. But the dwarves, being dour and taciturn and revenge-minded, said, no, this is the business of dwarves. If you wish to join us and join our clan, cousin, you may. Otherwise, do not seek to delay us. And of course, the party didn't. They weren't about to go to war with what seemed to be easily 100 or so angry dwarves. So the two groups passed. A fairly uneventful meeting. Here they cast Find the Path. Now, I know that the players have got a Find the Path spell, and I don't want to just hand them the adventure on a silver platter. Like, oh yeah, okay, it says go here. But I also don't want to do, give them a screw job where it's like, haha, I don't care. Otherwise, why have rules, right? Yes, I know DM should only roll dice because he likes the sound they make and, never be beholden to the dice and what have you. But, the players have earned the right to cast stuff like Find the Path. So when they cast it, I figured Igwil's magic might interfere just a little bit with potential treasure seekers. So I said, your sensation of knowing the right path spins around like a compass brought near a magnet, but seems to be indicating the new path, the path that was not indicated on your map, the one to the southwest. It seems to be. It's not like a glowing arrow pointing that way, but you seem drawn in that direction. So the party decided to explore down this road. And there were two events that happened there. First of all, on the second day of travel down that track, they passed an eagle's eyrie. Now this, I thought this was just as cool as hell. And this is something that I don't know if this is mentioned, but I'm gonna look at this here. I'm gonna look at the monster manual because they are. There we go. I know these creatures are in the monster manual. But they passed an eyrie of giant eagles. And it mentions specifically in the text of the module. And yes, I've never looked at giant eagles in the monster manual. If I have, I never gave it a close study. I thought this was something cool for the module, but in the context of like The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, it makes sense. Giant eagles are fairly friendly towards certain dwarves and elves. They have their own language and can also communicate through a limited form of telepathy. So on seeing the party down in the gully below them as they were marching upwards, the eagles telepathically communicate with the dwarf in the party, the one character who can engage in some bacon saving, and the party just happens to have one with them. They basically warn them off attempting to climb up the eyrie, which the party didn't have to continue. I said, you feel steely, cold contact of an alien animal mind to yours, and your gaze is drawn upward, and looking out over the edge of an eyrie well above you, and you see the stern face of a giant eagle, and warns them off. Just keep moving. We don't want anything to do with you. Just keep moving. So the party did not tarry, and they moved on. I just thought that was a damn cool encounter in the module. And it was the next day, per the Greyhawk weather generator. It was the next day. Oh, the PDF reader's up on the screen there. That's good. Party follows GPS into lake. I love that. But it was the next day that the party basically got set in by a snowstorm. Said, early in the day. Well, really, I think I said it around midday because it was supposed to be a 14-hour long snowstorm. It says, the snow starts to fall, and then it starts to fall with seriousness. And that's when they decided, they probed the ground. They made sure that they weren't setting up on the side of a cliff or a ground that would crumble away from them. They set up the Daern's instant fortress, and the bard braved the elements and played his lyre for a good, I think, 6 turns, and made sure that they had built a large enough roofed stable of rock and earth to manage their mountain horses. So they put the horses in there with enough feed, made sure they were comfortable, and then all withdrew into the tower. They stuffed blankets in all the arrow slits to make sure that it was fairly insulated. The druid used stone shape on the ground underneath the tower to make basically to make a stone stove with a long enough chimney that it would go up the passage to the second level of the tower, which they left open so the smoke would go out. And then they stoked in all of their coal and whatnot, and were able to stay relatively comfortable for the night. And that is where we left off. Basically with the party having created a shelter and being snowed in. And it snowed for 14 hours. Now, as I have stated, I'm a Florida boy. So I don't know what 14 hours of snow would do. So I just said, look, it's a foot of snow every hour. So when you wake up in the morning, on the windward side of the tower, it's halfway up the tower, as the tower is 30 feet tall. And they had the smarts. They said, okay, we're going to build our stable on the lee side of the tower, so the horses basically won't get suffocated and frozen. So that didn't happen. So there's multiple feet of snow all around them. And this brings up an interesting question. The cleric player said, hey, does lower water work on snow? And I think that's a fair question. What do you do in your... Would you allow lower water, or even destroy water, the reverse of create water, to destroy or lower snow and ice? I think that's a really good one. A foot of snow every hour is a blizzard. Okay. I thought cookies and cream in a cup from McDonald's was a Blizzard. No, that's a flurry. A McFlurry? Is that it? A McBlizzard? I don't know. I can't eat stuff like that anymore. I've lost track of fast food desserts. 14 hours of snow could be a dusting, it could be feet, it could be wet and heavy or light and fluffy. Drifts will get up to 5 times actual fall. So, yeah. You folks from northern climes know I do not. But that was where we parted for the evening. If it's water and it has depth, I'd allow it. Sure. I mean, I haven't said yay or nay, but I don't see why not. I mean, now I wouldn't necessarily stretch that to allow, like, if the cleric can cast create water, he can cast create ice. No. Yeah, that's where I'm leaning, Grooves. I didn't see anything that makes it dependent on what state the matter is in. So steam, fog, snow, ice, water is water, just in different states. Lower, part, destroy. It all works on it. You know, so I think it's absolutely okay that the players want to use it. So that's where we left. It wasn't exactly a combat field. There was the fur snake that they encountered early on. But now it's just a lot of travel. But the travel is creating interesting options. It's itself. The travel is creating interesting options. Yeah, I mean, there's specific spells that create ice, wall of ice, ice storm, even cone of cold. I mean, you could work in conjunction with a magic user to, you create water, he hits it with cone of cold and flash freezes it. Then you've got the ice you need. Otherwise, it's just water. I have seen pictures, Jack. I have seen pictures of touristy areas in Japan where there's these insane, like 40 and 50 foot tall paths cut through. Well, they're paths cut through 40 and 50 foot tall snowbanks on either side of a highway. And they're just perfect cookie cutter. They just go straight up either side of the highway with these buses passing through. That's crazy. That's crazy. So I just figured, you know, it was, like I said, on the lee side, 14 feet piled up against the side of the tower. Everywhere else, multiple feet, but not quite like that. I mean, when you think inside the tower, you know, it's metal of whatever thickness, we'll say 1/4 inch thick of adamantine or whatever. They're nice and toasty. I mean, they even joked about bringing some snow in, having the druid create like a pool, basically a sauna, then bringing some snow in, filling it up, and using the flaming sword of one of the characters to make a sauna. Basically, they'd all just strip and pile in and just have a sauna. Yeah, and there was the blizzard of 1978 too, that just locked in the entire Midwest. I remember that. That weather event, by the way, to keep it geeky related, that weather event was one of the things that scuttled the first season of Battlestar Galactica. Because it lasted like that spate of bad weather knocked out the power through the heartland. And in the 70s, that area, like the Midwest, was considered the key polling area for Nielsen ratings. Yeah, there were other places in the country where they'd rate from, but it was the American Midwest was where they figured the pulse of the United States' entertainment desires would come from. If it played well there, it would generally play well anywhere. And So, you know, people would send in their little cards back to the Nielsen people saying, you know, what'd you watch Saturday night? Nothing. What'd you watch the following Saturday night? Nothing. What'd you watch the Saturday night after that? Nothing. So the Nielsen data for Battlestar Galactica, like the first few episodes, comes back and it's in the toilet. Because it's just based on a survey of 1,000 random people, the majority of which happened to be in the Midwest. So it looked like the show did terribly. The Lost Tower of Jacuzzi. Yes. And if they cast Time Stop, you know, of course, that would be a hot tub time machine, wouldn't it? Well, they didn't end up making the jacuzzi. They just joked about doing it. But anyway, so that's what they did. You know, they woke up to a cloudy morning, but the snow had stopped. And, you know, they'll proceed apace next week. And then I will bring it back to you guys. And I will tell you what happened on further adventures in their quest for the Lost Caverns of Sojkan. Now, I did promise some more Greyhawk deities stuff today. And we're going to look at that. We're going to scroll down. You know what? I'm going to turn this off so I don't kill you guys with scoliosis. And then I'll find what we need to be looking for here. There. But yeah, it has been so much fun. And guys, this, when you talk about creating a living campaign, like a living world that you can really put your players in, consider things like this. Consider things like weather and rates of travel and so on and etc. Don't just let it be, we're in the city of Greyhawk. Some weeks later, you arrive in the city of Verbabunk. I mean, you got to make it live, guys. You got to make it live. So let's look then at some more deities. We talked about Olidamara. So let's talk about. Did we talk about Voltas? I don't think we have talked about Voltas. So let's jump in and let's talk a little bit about Voltas. Pop open Acrobat there. If you're following along, we are on page 74 of the glossography in the World of Greyhawk box set. And we're just going to dive on into that. Let's see. Yes. Hot tub. Let make me sweat. Put my foot in. Water's too hot. Ow! Best Eddie Murphy SNL skit ever. It's one of them. It's definitely one of them. Jack Photon says, lower water says, or similar fluid, particle motion such as sand is considered. Oh, no. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing fluid dynamics, Jack. It's wet stuff, and you know it. Stop that. You stop that. Kind of like it would, yeah, I think it would be like a big snow shovel. So let's talk about Voltas of the Blinding Light. He's a lesser god, lawful good, neutral tendencies, light, resolution, law, order, inflexibility, sun, and moon. It is said that the regularity of sunrise and sunset, the cycles of the moon, are all fixed as the resolve of Voltas to show all creatures the one true way, a strict path which allows no deviation but gives absolute assurance of righteousness. Some followers of the blinding light actually claim it is their deity, Voltas, who ordered the rigid progression of the sun and moon and maintains them in his regimen. Such claims are not regarded as doctrine. Voltas appears as a tall, slender man, pale of complexion, with flowing white hair and bright blue eyes from which the fire of devotion to the cause shines forth. He always wears a gown of white, silky material and a cassock trimmed in gold and silver embroidered embroidered suns and moons. In his hand is an ivory staff shod in silver and topped by a disc of electrum, the silvery sun. The staff of the silvery sun can be used as a weapon, but its major powers are in its magic. The staff can shoot forth various forms of light as if it were a wand of illumination. The top can cure or cause blindness by touch, or shoot forth a pulsing flash of radiation which plays from the infrared into the visible and through the ultraviolet spectrums. Any creature struck by it becomes unable to look away from the staff of the silvery sun and becomes subject to each and every command uttered by the holder of the device. It can also release a globe of great brilliance, an expanding sphere of light from which begins an expanding sphere of light which begins from the staff and it spreads to a 40-yard diameter. All within the globe, except Voltas himself, risk becoming permanently blind, cure possible only by the means of the staff, a wish, or a deity able to cure blindness or fulfill a wish. Voltas also has the following magical powers: the power to dispel darkness merely by touch, the power to cause any nearby creature to glow brightly merely by pointing towards the creature, the power to reflect all forms of radiation, becoming mirror bright. Gaze weapons are reflected back upon their users, heat has no effect upon him, and even creatures endowed with infravision or ultravision can be struck sightless by looking upon Voltas when he is thus reflecting. The ethereal plane, the positive material plane, and the prime material plane are open to Voltas, although the deity usually remains on his own, Arcadia. He can summon mundanic divas to his aid through gates. Following the inflexible example of their deity, the clerics of Voltas continually seek to reveal the light to unbelievers. They will brook no argument, of course, and resistors will be shown the way of the blinding light. There are 3 ranks of this priesthood: the glimmering, who wear white vestment, the gleam, who wear white and silver, and the shining, who wear white and gold. Rad Rob. Anyway. The priesthood of Voltas is most active in urban districts. Consecrated buildings are white. Services include many burning candles and long sermons. The anthem of worshippers is "O Blinding Light." Wrapped up like a deuce, another runner in the night. Come on. You can't just put that there and not expect me to make the joke. In this house, we obey the laws of thermodynamics, young man. So there's Voltas. But what about Relish? The unlooked for. Lesser god, chaotic neutral, evil tendencies, chance, randomness, bad luck, misfortune, and madness. Relish is the deity of chance, ill luck, and misfortune. He is looked to as the one who causes unforeseen events which bring woe more often than weal. He is also the deity of chance and randomness, and so is regarded as the patron of gamblers and those who take unusual risks, although his intercession is unlooked for. Relish most often appears on the prime material plane as an ancient and oddly dressed mendicant, sometimes male, sometimes female. Relish will beg or gamble in this guise. At other times he will reappear as a jester or an idiot. In his or her true form, Relish is quite awful to behold, for at one moment the face and body of the deity are handsome, the next wrinkled and ugly, then that of a scabby beggar, then that of a beautiful maid. During all, however, an aura of unease pervades, for the randomness of Relish is most disturbing to all. The only weapon that Relish ever uses is of wood, sometimes a club, other times a staff. Both are actually the same item. In addition to the powers normal to a high priest, 18th level, and a spellbinder, Relishaz has the following powers. The power to put a person to sleep with his gaze. Sleep! The power to age a person with his touch. The power to curse a person. Few formally worship Relishaz, although there are a handful of small shrines and temples in large cities and out-of-the-way places. Clerics of Relishaz wear varicolored robes of differing materials. It is noteworthy that these clerics never seem to suffer misfortune or ill luck, unless it is very, very bad indeed. The ceremonies of worship of Relishaz involve random notes on musical instruments, babbling paeans, the frequent casting of augury devices, and wildly varying conditions of light and darkness, noise and quiet, heat and chill. Well, Relishaz could easily be Greyhawk's Nyarlathotep, don't you think? Now let's scroll down and see what we've got. See if we've got any stats for these guys. We might not. Voltas, armor class, -5, move 21 inches, 286 hit points, number of attacks 2, damage per attack 3 to 12 plus 2, strength bonus. Special attacks, see below. Special defense, +3 or better weapon to hit. Magic resistance, 85. You'd think he'd be fully magic resistant, but no. Medium. Alignment, lawful, good, neutral. Worshippers alignment, lawful, neutral, evil, or good. Imagine lawful evil worshippers of Voltas. You're going to get burned. Shh. Symbol, the silvery sun. Plane, Arcadia. Spend $5 for some tokens in Arcadia. Cleric Druid, 20th level Cleric. Fighter, no. Magic User Illusionist, 12th level Illusionist. He's neither a fighter, he is neither a thief nor an assassin, nor a monk nor a bard. All attack defense modes. Strength, 18. Intelligence, 17. Wisdom, 23. Dexterity, 19. Constitution, 23. Charisma, 20. The Staff of the Silvery Sun strikes as a +6 weapon and causes 3 to 12 points of damage, plus wielder's strength bonus, if any. The Spectrum Beam shoots, from the top of the staff, is 8 feet wide and 80 feet long. Any creature struck by it must save versus spells or be unable to move its gaze from the Staff of the Silvery Sun and be subject to each and every command uttered by the holder of the device. Anyone within the brilliant globe produced by the staff must save versus spells or become permanently blind, except Voltas. The spectrum is usable 4 times a day, but the globe once per day. In addition to the usual spells known to a cleric illusionist of the same level, Voltas has the following spell-like powers. Dispel darkness. He can just touch any area of magical darkness to do that, and it's gone for 8 turns. As a cleric spell, it is necessary to have Voltas' holy symbol and speak his name when using the power. Duration is 4 rounds plus 1 round per level of the cleric. Glow. By pointing, any creature within 80 feet of the caster will be caused to glow brightly, shedding a radiance equal to light in a 100-foot radius for 8 rounds, no saving throw. If the caster chooses, the glow can spring forth from his or her own body as follows. Face, +2 charisma. Eyes, light beams 40 feet long with a 4-inch base diameter. As a cleric spell, Voltas' holy symbol and a 1-segment prayer to the blinding light are required. Casting time is 2 segments, and duration is 1 round per level of the caster. Reflect. By means of a mystic pass and reference to the blinding light, Voltas can cause his body to reflect all forms of radiation. Creatures using infravision or ultravision will be struck sightless for 1 to 8 segments after looking upon Voltas, unless they save versus spells. If light conditions are very bright, such as in full sunlight, sightlessness will last 2 to 16 segments. As a cleric spell, Reflection has a duration of 1 round, requires 3 segments to cast, and requires a holy symbol of Voltas plus use of crystal prayer beads. Voltas can employ each of these powers 4 times per day. He can gate from 1 to 4 monadic divas to do his bidding. Nose is itching today. There are 3 ranks of the priesthood of Voltas. The ranks are achieved in steps of 4 levels. Upon attaining rank, the ability to cast the following special spells is gained. And then you have the Glimmering, the Gleam, and the Shining. Cast Dispel Darkness, Glow, and Reflect. The special spells of lower ranks are retained upon reaching a new rank. A Shining Cleric can use each of the special spells once per day. So that's Voltas. Now Relish has armor class 0 to -6, check each appearance. Move 15 inches to 30 inches, check each appearance. Hit points 140 plus 5 to 50, check each appearance. Number of attacks 1 to 4, varies each round. Damage per attack 1 to 20 plus 2, strength bonus. Special attacks and defenses, see below. Magic resistance 71% to 90%, check each time. Size medium, 5 feet tall. Alignment chaotic, evil. Worshipper's alignment any but usually chaotic. Symbol 3 bone sticks, plain limbo. Cleric Druid, 18th level cleric, not a fighter. Magic user illusionist 9th. Thief or assassin. Now I would have figured him to be a thief or an assassin or have levels of it, just based on his description. Not monk or bard. All psionic attack defense. Strength 18, intelligence 20, wisdom 20, dexterity 19, constitution 20, charisma 8 or -1. His weapon is the equivalent of a +3 weapon, but causes 1 to 20 points of damage when it hits. In addition, the power is normal to an 18th level cleric and 9th level illusionist. Relish has the following powers. No saving throw applicable, but magic resistance withstanding. Gaze, sleep for 1 to 20 rounds. 1 creature per round, 10-foot range. Touch, ages subject 1 to 100 months, once per day. Curse, variable, affects 1 creature once per day. Always lose games of chance. Miss next luck, save or similar chance. 2 abilities of unequal rating change places with each other. Always surprised during the next 1 to 20 encounters. Relish can only be hit by magical weapons. The strength of the necessary enchantments varies from day to day by chance. +1 or better, +2 or just you'd roll a d4, I guess. In addition, Relish can sometimes reverse the effects of attacks. There is a 1 in 20 chance that an attack affecting the deity will actually affect the attacker, and there is a 1 in 20 chance that both Relish and the attacker will be affected. At 3rd through 6th level, roll a d4. Clerics of this deity gain the ability to sleep by gaze, 1 use per day, saving throw applicable. So there's Voltas and Relish, 2 very different gods. Relish really speaks to me with the idea of being a Nyarlathotep-like deity, bringing chaos and discord wherever he goes. Fulton shows up, makes the rogue glow, leaves. He's also known as Little Early Pearly. He can bestow his move powers on people. At least I think he can, because he asked me if I needed a ride. And keep up the blinded by the light puns all day. Speaking of idiots, never call Gru the Wanderer a mendicant. Yes. Never call Gru the Wanderer a mendicant. You know, one of these days I should stat up old Gru for AD&D. I'm sure someone did it long ago. Sergio Aragonés, Gru the Wanderer. I almost said Antonio Prohías, but he did Spy vs. Spy, which was also in Mad Magazine with Gru. With Sergio Aragonés' art, not Gru. I loved seeing Aragonés' art just crammed down in the margins and in between panels. I loved that when I was a kid. So there are your 2 deities. Now, Voltas is the god that is chiefly worshipped in the Theocracy of the Pale. In my Greyhawk campaign, I've always had the Theocracy of the Pale be very much a religiously intolerant place. So they push Voltas worship hard on their neighbors, to the point where they will, like border areas, they absolutely, the folk in the theocracy of the Pale, the military, the Holy See, if it just because it's a little across a map line or a river or something like that, they have absolutely no problem going in and rounding up heretics. They see no issue with that whatsoever. Now, if you just happen to roll through the theocracy of the Pale in my campaign, there are some religions they'll tolerate, but a great many that they won't. Many Palish folk refer to Voltas as God, not a God, not their God, but God, capital G. There just are no others. But there's your daily dose of Greyhawk deities. Yes, I do know that is a Bruce Springsteen song, "Blinded by the Light." It was Manfred Mann that made it popular. Going online and listening to the Bruce Springsteen version is weird. It's very, very, very weird. It's like one of my favorite, I guess, diva songs is "Total Eclipse of the Heart" by Bonnie Tyler. I really like it a lot. A lot of people think that it was originally supposed to be a song that it was originally written for Meatloaf. It was not. It was written for a play that Jim Steinman wrote the score for, and he gave to Bonnie Tyler to sing. But Meatloaf does a cover of it, and that's equally strange to me. I say it's good, it sounds good, but it's strange to hear Meatloaf singing that song. It's just like, in my mind, it's Bonnie Tyler's song. But anyhow, so that's where we're at today. And we're kind of at the point where I don't think I could cover another Greyhawk deity and do it any justice in a short amount of time left. So I think we'll go ahead and call it a day there. Now, I do want to address something, because this occasionally comes up on live streams. But I just want to make sure you guys know this. Sometimes folks will ask me, they're like, "Hey, on your live streams, I can't, you don't have a super chat button. Activate your super chat button so I can donate." That's a thing that I can't do with the number of viewers that I have. YouTube doesn't want me, and anyone with less than 1,000 views and 4,000 hours of engagement, that is, my viewers watching a grand total of 4,000 hours of video, to be able to donate me funds. If you wish to contribute to the show, and I'm not rattling the tin cup, I'm not saying you have to, but if you wish to contribute to the show, you can always kick me something in PayPal, if that's what you want to do. You just go through PayPal and shoot it to me. There's my email address. Let me see if I can find this real quick. Where's the... Uh-oh. So if you're watching over on Facebook, it is bsylvie@gmail.com. See if I can find this real quick. Is it still... Yes, there I am. I only mention that in the chats. I only mention that because somebody asked. If you want to, that's awesome. If you don't want to, I completely understand. I completely get it. I'm not rattling the tin cup. I'm just saying, that I would have super chats turned on if it was an option. I can't. So if you feel compelled to donate a couple of bucks to the show, that's on you. And there's how you can do it. So I'm just letting you know, because the question has come up in the past. That's all. So tomorrow, I don't know. We'll just have to see what we're going to do. We're going to talk about Greyhawk tomorrow. Might talk a little bit about Rusty's game. I'm playing in his AD&D game tomorrow, or later tonight, rather. So we'll come back. Definitely some Greyhawk tomorrow. And yeah, we'll wrap up the week like that. But until then, have an absolutely wonderful day. Thanks as always to Bards of Greyhawk. The trailer featuring the Bards of Greyhawk music is coming hopefully next week. I keep getting delayed on finishing up the B-roll music, and Imperial Ramblings is helping me out with that, so I got to get him some B-roll, so we'll have a nice introductory spiel for the show from there on out. But until then, thank you all very, very, very much for hanging out today. I love you all, guys. Thanks again. It's great to see you. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you all tomorrow.